Ah, Britain. That little rainy island that once ruled a quarter of the globe and now can't seem to keep the water in its own pipes. Drought in England, they tell me, the driest spring since Queen Victoria was still alive and misjudging the Irish. What a tremendous achievement in a land whose greatest export has long been drizzle. Now, I do not traffic in nostalgia. I don't pine for the empire or for warm beer or ration books. But I do possess a memory, and I know the difference between governance and theatre, between statecraft and pantomime. Let us begin with the matter of money, the secular sacrament of modern politics. The current government, fronted by Rachel Reeves and her so-called spending review, has now pledged some £30 billion more toward the NHS, defence, and the seemingly boundless promise of nuclear energy. Ah yes, nuclear power, the energy of the future, and it always will be. Let us pass the reality, shall we? We have a political class that blithely incants net zero like a Gregorian chant, while simultaneously pouring treasure into a single nuclear project at Sizewell CA, kind of atomic cathedral to indecision. We are asked to believe that this is vision, when it is in fact paralysis wrapped in subsidy. A cynical gesture to the green gods, while the actual infrastructure, schools, housing, even the bloody police, continues its steady collapse into irrelevance. Meanwhile, His Majesty's opposition, though one struggles to remember precisely whom they oppose these days, has reinvented dirigism as virtue. Great British energy, we are told, shall lead us to the promised land of public ownership and clean energy. Splendid. And what, pray, will power it? More fossil fuel extraction under the guise of transitional pragmatism, or perhaps the reliable winds of Westminster spin? You will forgive me for not being swept up in the poetry. And while they set the nation ablaze with talk of megawatts and net zero targets, they quietly prepare the nation for war. Oh, forgive me, for war-fighting readiness. 12 new attack submarines, hypersonic missiles, and a cyber command to make Orwell seem like a travel writer. This from a nation that cannot even fill its hospitals with competent nurses or its classrooms with safe materials. Ladies and gentlemen, when a government arms itself to the teeth while starving its own society of education and equity, it is not preparing for defense, it is preparing for control. Then, in the margins of this spectacle, slither the usual suspects of cultural obscurantism. Nigel Farage, perennial lava of British populism, has gifted us a new party chairman in the American mold. A Trumpian figure, I believe they call him, because Huckster was already taken. This party now whispers about bringing back the death penalty and reducing the NHS to an insurance-based model. Well, at least they're honest in their regressions. The others do it by stealth. But let us not be romantic about the opposition either. The left, too, has committed its own treason against liberty, not by what it bans, but by what it demands. One must now contort their language and conscience to pass the purity tests of progressive dogma. Free speech, the lifeblood of civilization, is now bartered for safe spaces and digital tribunals. An artist is less likely to be censored by the state than by the sanctimony of the algorithm. So here we are, a nation that once gave us Orwell and Darwin, Shakespeare and Shelley, now reduced to bureaucratic sermonizing, energy theatre, and a foreign policy dictated by arms manufacturers and columnists who confuse volume with valor. But I remain, somehow, cautiously defiant. Because this country, this island of endless contradiction, still contains the flickering pilot light of reason. Not in its parliament, certainly, but in its public. In the people who know, instinctively, that liberty is not the domain of either left or right, but the burden of all. So, I say, reject the managed decline. Scorn the politicians who feed you fear and fantasy. Demand, instead, a politics that respects the intelligence of the electorate, not one that manipulates it. The truth, however bitter, is always preferable to illusion, however sweet. Thank you.